The Crimson Moon? A Tale of Two Kings. The crimson moon hung heavy in the obsidian sky, casting long, eerie shadows that danced across the ancient cobblestone streets of Volterra. Within the crumbling walls of the Volturi castle, two figures stood silhouetted against the blood-red glow. Caius, the stoic and severe, watched his brother, Aro, with a mixture of amusement and apprehension. Aro, ever the curious, had become inexplicably fascinated with a young human artist, a vibrant soul who painted the world in hues of passion and despair. "Brother," Caius began, his voice a low growl, "this obsession with a mortal, it distracts you." Aro, his eyes gleaming with an unnatural light, turned to face his brother. "Distraction, Caius? This is more than mere distraction. This human, he possesses an essence, a spark that ignites something within me." Marcus, the silent observer, spoke for the first time. "And what of the Volturi? What of our duties? The world watches, expecting us to maintain order, to enforce our rule." Aro sighed, his gaze falling upon a portrait of the human artist, his vibrant colors capturing the essence of a stormy sea. "The world will not crumble if I indulge in a fleeting fancy. Besides," he added, with a mischievous glint in his eyes, "perhaps this human can offer us a new perspective, a glimpse into the emotions we have long forgotten." Caius remained unconvinced. "He is mortal, Aro, a fragile creature destined for oblivion. Your fascination will inevitably lead to his destruction." Aro smiled, "A chillingly beautiful thing. Perhaps. But even in destruction, there is beauty, is there not?" And so Aro embarked on his pursuit, his obsession growing with each passing day. He collected the human's artwork, sought out his every brushstroke, every whispered word, every fleeting emotion. He became a shadow, a silent observer, captivated by the vibrant life force that pulsed within this mortal soul. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The rain lashed against the windows of the small attic studio, mirroring the tempest brewing within Alessandro. He stared at the blank canvas, the vibrant hues of his paints seeming to mock his inability to capture the essence of the storm raging within him. He had been plagued by nightmares lately, vivid and terrifying visions of a crimson moon, of ancient beings with eyes like burning embers, of a world teetering on the brink of chaos. A low growl rumbled through the streets below, followed by a chilling silence. Alessandro, his heart pounding, peered out the window. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and imposing, with skin as pale as moonlight and eyes that held the ancient wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes. It was Aro, the legendary vampire, the ruler of the Volturi, standing before him in the pouring rain, his presence radiating an aura of both power and an unsettling serenity. Despite the fear that gripped him, Alessandro felt an inexplicable pull toward the creature, a strange sense of familiarity, and a burgeoning sense of something else. Aro, his voice a silken whisper that seemed to slither through the air, spoke. "You are Alessandro, the artist. I have admired your work for some time." Alessandro, speechless, could only stare at the vampire, mesmerized by the otherworldly beauty that seemed to emanate from him. Aro stepped closer, his gaze lingering on Alessandro's face, a predatory glint in his eyes. "Your art, it speaks to me. It reflects the turmoil within, the yearning for something more." Alessandro, his voice trembling, managed to croak out, I don't understand." Aro smiled, "A chillingly beautiful thing. I understand more than you could possibly imagine." He reached out, his long, pale fingers brushing against Alessandro's cheek, sending shivers down the artist's spine. The touch was electric, a jolt of pure energy that ignited a fire within him. Alessandro, lost in the intoxicating scent of blood and ancient earth, found himself leaning into the touch, his senses reeling. He felt a strange connection to this creature, a primal pull that defied logic and reason. Aro, his eyes darkening, leaned closer, his breath warm against Alessandro's skin. "You are a rare flower, Alessandro, a fragile beauty blooming in the darkness." He lowered his head, his lips brushing against Alessandro's, tentatively exploring. The kiss was a whirlwind, a storm of emotions, fear, desire, and a strange sense of belonging. Alessandro, his senses overwhelmed, found himself responding. His hands reached out to touch the vampire's face, tracing the sharp angles of his cheekbones and the delicate curve of his lips. The kiss deepened, a passionate dance of tongues and teeth, a desperate hunger that consumed them both. Aro tasted of blood and moonlight, of ancient secrets and forbidden desires. As the kiss intensified, Alessandro felt a strange transformation within him, a tingling sensation spreading through his veins, a newfound strength and agility. He was no longer just a human. He was something more, something different. Aro, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light, pulled back, his gaze fixed on Alessandro's face, a mixture of hunger and satisfaction in his eyes. "You are mine, Alessandro," he whispered, his voice a low growl, "bound to me by a fate older than time itself." Alessandro, still reeling from the intensity of the experience, could only nod, his mind a whirlwind of confusion and exhilaration. He had fallen, utterly and irrevocably, for the ancient vampire, his heart willingly surrendering to the intoxicating darkness that consumed him. Aro, sensing the shift in Alessandro's consciousness, smiled. "Come," he urged, his voice laced with a seductive drawl. "There is much for you to learn, much for us to explore." And so, Alessandro, the human artist, stepped into the unknown. The vampire's touch forever changed his life, and his fate was intertwined with that of the ancient ruler of the Volturi. Chapter 2. The Awakening of the Beast. The ancient forest, shrouded in an eerie mist, was their sanctuary, a place where they could escape the scrutiny of the Volturi court and indulge in their forbidden love. Alessandro, now a creature of the night, moved with a grace and agility that surprised even himself. He had embraced his new nature, the vampire blood coursing through his veins, fueling him with a newfound power and a heightened awareness of the world around him. Aro, ever the indulgent lover, had showered Alessandro with gifts, exquisite silks, rare jewels, and a collection of ancient art that rivaled any museum. But the most precious gift, Alessandro realized, was the vampire's unwavering devotion, the way he looked at him, as if he were the most beautiful creature in the world. One moonless night, as they lay entwined beneath the canopy of ancient trees, Alessandro confessed his fears. What if the others find out? What if they condemn me? Aro, his arms wrapped around Alessandro, pulled him closer. "They will not. I will protect you." Besides, he added, a mischievous glint in his eyes, the others would never suspect their esteemed leader of such unconventional pleasures. Alessandro, comforted by Aro's words, relaxed against him. "I worry about the world, Aro. The nightmares, they are becoming more frequent, more intense." Aro, his expression turning serious, said, "The balance of power is shifting. An ancient evil is stirring, a darkness that threatens to consume the world." He paused, his gaze intense. "You, Alessandro, are key to defeating it." Alessandro, perplexed, asked, "Me? But how?" Aro smiled enigmatically. "You possess a unique strength, a connection to the primal forces of the earth. You are not just a vampire, Alessandro. You are something more." He leaned closer, his voice a low growl. "You are a werewolf." Alessandro, shocked, stared at Aro, his mind reeling. Werewolves were legends, creatures of myth and superstition, feared and reviled by both humans and vampires. Aro, sensing Alessandro's apprehension, said, "Do not fear it, Alessandro. Embrace it. This power, this connection to the wild, it will be our salvation." He reached out, his fingers tracing the faint markings that had appeared on Alessandro's skin, a network of intricate patterns that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. "These marks," Aro explained, "are a sign of your true nature. You are a hybrid, a unique blend of vampire and werewolf, a creature of both darkness and light." He kissed Alessandro deeply, a passionate, soul-stirring kiss that ignited the dormant power within him. A low growl rumbled deep within Alessandro's chest, a primal urge that surged through his veins, transforming him into a creature of the night, his body shifting and contorting, his eyes glowing with an eerie yellow light. He emerged from the transformation, his senses heightened, his body radiating an aura of raw power. He felt a strange connection to the forest, to the moon, to the very essence of the earth. Aro, watching him with a mixture of awe and admiration, said, "You are magnificent, Alessandro, a creature of both beauty and ferocity." He embraced Alessandro, his arms strong and comforting. "Together, we will face this darkness. Together, we will save the world." Alessandro, his heart pounding with a newfound sense of purpose, felt a surge of strength and determination. Chapter 3. The Crimson Moon Rises. The crimson moon, a malevolent omen, hung heavy in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows that danced across the desolate landscape. The air crackled with a dark energy, a palpable sense of dread hanging over the world. Alessandro, his senses heightened, felt the earth tremble beneath his feet. The ancient evil, the source of the nightmares that had plagued him for so long, was finally awakening. Aro, his eyes gleaming with an unnatural light, stood beside him, his hand clasped firmly in Alessandro's. "The time has come," he whispered, his voice a low growl. "The battle begins." They joined forces with a group of powerful vampires and werewolves, an unlikely alliance forged in the face of impending doom. Alessandro, with his unique blend of vampire and werewolf powers, proved to be an invaluable asset, his senses allowing him to anticipate the enemy's moves, his strength and agility unmatched. The battle raged, a chaotic dance of death and destruction. Vampires clashed with ancient demons, their fangs sinking deep into the flesh of their enemies. Werewolves, their eyes glowing with a ferocious light, tore into the ranks of the enemy, their howls echoing through the night. Alessandro, a whirlwind of motion, fought with a ferocity that surprised even himself. He was a beast unleashed, his senses heightened, his body moving with a grace and agility that belied his strength. He tore through his enemies, his fangs sinking deep into their flesh, his claws raking across their skin. But the enemy was relentless, their numbers seemingly endless. The ground beneath their feet shook, and the air grew thick with the stench of sulfur and decay. Just as despair began to set in, Alessandro felt a surge of power within him, a connection to the earth, to the very essence of life itself. He unleashed a wave of energy, a primal force that surged through the battlefield, pushing back the enemy and forcing them to retreat. The battle raged on, a grueling test of strength and will, but slowly, steadily, they began to gain the upper hand. The enemy, weakened and demoralized, began to crumble. Finally, with a resounding roar, Alessandro unleashed a final, devastating blow, his power amplified by the combined strength of his allies. The ancient evil, its power waning, was finally defeated, its essence dissipated into the night. The crimson moon, its malevolent glow fading, was replaced by the soft light of the stars. A sense of peace, long absent, descended upon the world. Exhausted but exhilarated, Alessandro collapsed into Aro's arms. "We did it," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "We saved the world." Aro, his eyes filled with love and admiration, held him close. Together we faced the darkness and emerged victorious. He kissed Alessandro, a long, slow kiss that spoke volumes of love, of loss, of triumph. They had faced unimaginable challenges, overcome insurmountable odds, and emerged from the crucible of battle stronger, more united than ever before. In the aftermath of the battle, the world slowly began to heal. The scars remained, a testament to the darkness that had threatened to consume them. But hope, a fragile yet resilient flower, began to bloom once more. Alessandro and Aro, their love story woven into the very fabric of the world, became legends, their names whispered in hushed tones, their love a beacon of hope in a world that had known darkness. They continued to rule the Volturi, their reign marked by an era of peace and prosperity. But their lives were no longer solely defined by their duties as rulers. They found joy in the simple things: long walks in the forest, stolen moments of intimacy, the quiet companionship that only true love could bring. And as the years passed, they watched the world evolve, the scars of the past slowly fading, replaced by a renewed sense of hope and wonder. Their love, a timeless testament to the enduring power of human connection, continued to inspire and enchant, a legend that would be passed down through generations, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, love could always find a way to prevail. Epilogue: a timeless love. Centuries later, the world had forgotten the horrors of the ancient battle, the crimson moon a distant memory. But the legend of Alessandro and Aro, the vampire king and his human lover, lived on. In a small, secluded village, a young boy sat by the fire, listening intently as his grandmother recounted the tale of the two legendary rulers. Their love, his grandmother whispered, her eyes twinkling, was a force of nature, a love that defied death and time itself. The boy, his eyes wide with wonder, asked, "Do you think they are still together, Grandma?" The grandmother smiled, her gaze fixed on the embers of the fire. "I believe so, my child. Their love is eternal. It transcends time, transcends even death." And as the boy drifted off to sleep, he dreamt of the crimson moon, of ancient battles, and of two lovers whose love had saved the world, their legend forever etched in the hearts of those who dared to remember.